On the morning of January 11th, 1992, the body of 12-year-old Shanda Sharer was discovered. Two brothers were driving by when they noticed something on the side of the road. At first, they figured it was a mannequin, but upon further inspection they realized that it was clearly the body of a burned child. The night before the discovery, January 10th, Tony and Hope, both 15 years old, drove with Lori, who was 17, to meet at 16-year-old Melinda's house. The four girls had planned to go to a concert on this night. Tony and Hope had only met Melinda once by this point. When the trio arrived at the house, Melinda showed them a knife, claiming that she was going to scare a classmate, Shanda, with it. Melinda's plan was to kill Shanda, reason being Shanda unknowingly stole Melinda's girlfriend, Amanda, months prior. However, Lori was already aware of Melinda's plan. The four girls drove to Shanda's house. Melinda and Lori stayed in the car while Tori and Hope knocked on the door, claiming that they were friends of Amanda and that Amanda was awaiting for her at the Witch's Castle, a ruined stone house overlooking the Ohio River. Shanda told the girls that she can go once her dad fell asleep. The four girls left without Shanda to attend the concert, returning to Shanda's a few hours later. During the drive to Shanda's house, Melinda said something concerning to Tony and Hope. Melinda said she couldn't wait to kill Shanda, immediately stating once again that her intention was to just scare Shanda. They arrived at the house. This time, Hope and Lori approached the house, as Melinda hid in the back of the car, concealed by a blanket. Their plan worked. During the drive, Hope started to question Shanda about her relationship. Melinda grabbed Shanda's hair and put a knife against her throat, interrogating her on the drive. At the Witch's Castle, they took Shanda inside and tied her up with rope. The girls continued to play with her, taunting, dancing, and telling Shanda the castle was filled with human remains and she would be next. Melinda lit a fire, then they feared that the light would be seen by the passing cars, so the four left with Shanda. Lori knew of an abandoned building near her house, so she took them there. Tony and Hope were scared, so they stayed in the car while Melinda and Lori forced Shanda to strip down to her underwear. Melinda began her assault, punching her, kneeing her. Eventually, Melinda took the knife and attempted to cut her throat, but the knife was too dull. Hope left the car to hold down Shanda, while Melinda and Lori took turns stabbing Shanda in the chest. They then strangled her with rope until she stopped moving, placing Shanda in the trunk thinking she was dead. The four girls drove to Lori's house to clean up. As they were inside, they could hear Shanda screaming from the trunk. Lori took a kitchen knife and continued to stab her until she was quiet. Tony and Hope stayed at Lori's house for the night. Melinda and Lori were too restless to sleep. They decided to go for a drive. On the drive, Shanda was making more noise from the trunk. She was struggling to breathe. The girls pulled over and opened the trunk. Shanda sat up covered in blood, unable to speak. Lori took a tire iron and beat her with it until she was unconscious. They then sexually assaulted her with that weapon. Shanda would wake up a few more times on the drive throughout the night. Lori, each time, would beat her unconscious. Just before the sun rose, Melinda and Lori returned to Hope and Tony a few hours later. Lori described the torture with a smile, accidentally waking up Lori's mother, who scolded them for being out so late. Offering to make the girls breakfast, the four declined and mentioned how they should be heading home. The four left, needing to dispose of Shanda. They went to the gas station, filled a 2-liter bottle with gas, and continued driving to a burn pile near Lori's house. They opened up the trunk to look at Shanda. Tony, ashamed, refused to look. Hope then took a bottle of Windex and sprayed Shanda in the face, saying, "Not looking so hot now, are you?" Shanda at this point was still alive. The girls wrapped her in a blanket, poured gasoline on her, and lit her on fire. After the four left, Melinda wasn't convinced that she was dead, so they returned to use the rest of the fuel. After finally killing Shanda, the girls went to McDonald's. As they ate, they joked about how Shanda's burnt body resembled one of the sausages they were eating. Tony, feeling guilty, told a friend over the phone what they had just done. Lori drove Tony and Hope home. Lori and Melinda soon hung out with Melinda's older friend, Crystal. The trio then picked up Amanda. The murderers told Crystal and Amanda the entire tale of what happened the night prior. Neither of them believed of what they had just heard until Melinda opened the trunk, revealing Shanda's bloody handprints. Amanda, horrified, requested to be taken home. Melinda, in front of Amanda's house, asked her to not tell anyone about their secret. Amanda promised that she wouldn't. On the same morning, Shanda's father realized she was nowhere to be found. After phoning neighbors and friends, decided to file a missing persons report with the sheriff's office at 1:45 p.m., just hours after she was discovered. Later on the same night at 8:20 p.m., Tony and Hope, accompanied by their parents, arrived at the sheriff's office. They told police everything that had happened the day before, identifying Shanda, naming Melinda and Lori. Using dental records, the detectives were able to confirm the body of Shanda. A day later, on January 12th, Melinda and Lori were arrested. The courts had decided that all 4 of the girls would be charged as adults. During the trial, the girls had used a history of sexual abuse, mental instability, among other tactics to avoid harsh sentencing. Tony was given the sentence of 20 years in prison, but only had served 9, being released in the year 2000. She was given a lighter sentence compared to the other girls because she had helped testify and admitted to the crime. Hope was given 60 years in prison, but somehow only served 14 years, being released in 2006. Lori was sentenced to 60 years in prison, yet only spent 25 years behind bars, being released in 2018. Finally, the mastermind behind the malicious murder, Melinda, was sentenced to 60 years, again somehow only serving 27, being released in 2019.